couple of days ago, my bestie and I were talking about Charmed. Why did we suddenly decide to talk about a show that we watched for the first time together back when we first met some 17, 18 years ago? Well, because we've been chatting a lot lately about how society as a whole seems to be slipping back into this weird belief system that needs for the lead female character of a show or movie to be good, likable, kind, sweet, for them to be worthy of that role, to be supported for who they are within the story. And okay, and I are not very fond of that. We never were, we never will be. Give me the unlikable women, the ones that color outside the lines, the ones that would make most people curse their names because of just how much they do not give a shit. Give me the women who are quite proud of being a bitch. Give me Prue Halliwell. Now, not going to lie, I have a clear rating for the Halliwell sisters. You might not agree with me, and that's okay. We're all allowed to like what we like. But for me, it is Prue, miles above her siblings. Then Piper, then Paige, and then Phoebe. Why is Phoebe my least favorite? That deserves its own video and a whole lot of cussing. Prue, however, being my absolute favorite sister is because, like I said earlier, she's unlikable. She's stubborn, she's cocky, she's acerbic, she doesn't apologize. She's driven by this innate need to fix everything. She's overtly critical. She's very controlling. She's highly suspicious. She suppresses her emotions. She rarely smiles. I love her. And I know you're looking at me like I've lost my damn mind because I said all of those traits with a smile on my face, which would otherwise make no sense because they are traditionally viewed and regarded as negative, especially when held by women within stories. Our society is one that is built on an expectation that women should aim to be likable. It's why we're told to smile. Why we get shut down with the "you're being too emotional" should we get angry during a disagreement and raise our voices. It's why society likes to use words like warm, loving, kind when they are referring to maternal figures, for example. Now, I'm not saying that being a warm, kind-hearted person who is loving to those who matter to us is a bad thing, just in case someone thinks that's the point I'm making. Instead, what I'm saying is that that is the expectation. That when a story features a woman or a group of women in lead roles, the expectation is that they would have these traditionally believed feminine traits and interpersonal skills to make them likable to the audience. And I'm sure some of you listening might think that a lot of these things are innocuous and are wondering why I seem to be making a big deal out of it. Well, in an essay that writer and editor Amy Cunningham once wrote for the now defunct magazine Lears, titled While Women Smile, she states, evidently, a woman's happy, willing deference is something the world once visibly demonstrated. Woe to the waitress, the personal assistant or receptionist, the flight attendant, or any other woman in the line of public service whose smile is not offered up to the boss or client as proof that there are no storm clouds, no kids to support, no sleep that's been missed, rolling into the sunny workplace landscape. Women are expected to smile no matter where they line up on the social, cultural, or economic ladder. College professors are criticized for not smiling. Political spouses are pilloried for being too serious. And women's roles in films have historically been smiling ones. And this applies to not just smiling, but also being generally personable and affable on screen as well. And so characters who fit this mold are the ones that Hollywood and a large number of audiences seem to support. Now, I'm not saying that Hollywood has not had its slew of the strong female character archetype. What I would say is that when they create and then push those characters, they don't make them compelling either, like they're punishing us for wanting unlikable characters. Because there's a way to straddle the line. Have a female character be unlikable, but have her be compelling and interesting as well. And that happy divide for me is where Prue Halliwell resides. Now, I know I mentioned that me and my bestie have Prue as our favorite Halliwell sister, and I've seen some people also comment that they love Prue as well. Hell, maybe you, who are watching this right now have Prue as your favorite or second favorite Halliwell sister, which, if that is the case, you have excellent taste. But I do remember the days of being on the forums and talking about Charmed and how so many people did not like Prue because she wasn't sweet like Piper or fun like Phoebe or with that wide eyed, ingenuous stare of Paige. Instead, Prue Halliwell starts the show by being pretty confident. She's the most successful of her sisters, very capable and good at her job, and like she tells them, she works hard to bring good money to her family. One would even say that she's sort of the main breadwinner of her home. Another reason why she's always at loggerheads with Phoebe. Because as the breadwinner, she finds Phoebe's inability to take things seriously and act like she has a full grasp of her present circumstances very irritating. It's why they are always fighting. And why Piper, who does have a job, not one as strictly regimented as Prue, but still a decent job as a chef at Quake, doesn't have as much of an antagonistic relationship with Prue. Because Piper is at least more financially responsible than Phoebe was at the start of the season. Now, how I believe that Prue is able to walk that thin line for me of being unlikable but also compelling, which is why she's my favorite, my absolute favorite, and I love her, is because there's a reason for it. And it is a reason that seeks to humanize her character so we understand why she is the way she is, why she acts the way she does without her losing her teeth or her edge. And which means that even as things get resolved for her, she doesn't get a total personality transplant because these scars are real and she's carried them for years and they've shaped who she is at the core, and bits of that will always remain. The reason why she finds it hard to say I love you to her sisters is because of the trauma of remembering that the last time she told their mother she loved her, their mother died. And so child Prue, who watched her mother be taken and drowned by a demon in real time, took in that sight, that horror, that trauma, and internalized it. And when it was eventually revealed when her sisters learned the truth, yes, Prue did tell them that she loves them, and she said it more frequently in the show, yes, but she was not yapping it every single time. She still was herself. Just now, she can say those words without the fear that she's had buried in her heart that kept her from saying it when she wanted to. The reason why Prue steps in and has an almost overbearing relationship with her sisters is because Prue has had to step in and act as both mother to her sisters because, their mother died when they were young and their grams had Prue take on a lot of that responsibility as the firstborn, and father as well because Victor does eventually bail out after one too many fraught altercations and arguments with Grams. And so you had Prue take on that responsibility of being her sister's parent instead of her role as an older sibling. So it softens the ache for me with regards how she interacts with her sisters, especially Phoebe, who is the youngest and the most headstrong. If you look at Prue's relationship and interactions with Phoebe through the eyes of a parent and not a sibling, you would understand why she acts and says and does some of the things she does. And this for me is really driven home in the episode when Phoebe kills Carl Green, the pro baseball player, and Prue and Piper travel to the future to save her, only for us to realize that even in the future Prue still considers it her responsibility as a big sister to look out for and protect and save her baby sister. Prue is cocky and arrogant and driven for sure, but none of these traits are unwarranted in the way in which her story was told. She is very good at her job. Of course she's cocky. She's one of the best. She's the strongest of the charmed ones, with her active power being one that is sought by a lot of the adversaries in the show. Yes, she's arrogant. She's also very driven and very focused, and this translates to how seriously she takes their jobs and their role as being witches. Phoebe thinks it's all about having a good time and that their powers are cool, and it's this free-spirited way of looking at things, at this power that they just discovered and are still learning how to control, that always irritated Prue and why they kept clashing. Because somewhere in our subconscious, Prue, being the eldest, knew exactly what the stakes were and that they could just as easily die like their mother did. Piper, meanwhile, is desperate for a sense of normalcy. I know a lot of people think that that bit of her character arc was primarily from the later seasons, but she's been showing that she wants some normalcy in her life outside of them being witches since they first got their powers. And so Prue is the one who studies, who practices, who pushes herself, who acts like their power is a responsibility that they've been given and cannot afford to misuse. Because of the three of them, she's the one who's had to live most of her life resisting the urge to break underneath the weight of responsibility that should not have been hers to bear. And ultimately, it makes her a bit short-fused and mean-spirited when she thinks her sisters aren't taking things seriously. And for me, that was the most human and real reaction from Halliwell, which is yet another reason why I love her. I love that even as much as she can and does have a stick up her ass, she was still brave enough and with that same focus and determination decided to quit her job as a curator to give photography a chance, as it's always been her passion. And that for me sealed it, because Prue prior to that point had seemed to only exist for her family and for her work. And with Andy's passing at the end of season 1, I was convinced that she was going to flounder. But for her, through her grief, to come to the realization that life really is too short and she was going to instead pursue the things she loved, it was a situation that resonated deeply for me. And of course, I love that it took her feeling like she was being pulled into two separate directions, needing to do her duty, but also wanting to do things for herself, that caused her ego to split, which eventually was what helped her realize that it's about time that she did things for Prue too. It's what made me realize that unlikable women are also quite capable of full, complete lives. And that as a matter of fact, you need to be willing to be a bit unlikable to pursue the things you want and to live life on your own terms. And what an interesting life it would be. Prue Halliwell is not like the rest of her sisters. She's not as charming, as funny, although personally I find her brand of humor very funny. She's not as vibrant and vivacious or as homey and warm as they are. She's more prickly, more thorny. She's harder to love and harder to root for, but she loves completely in a way that she would bury the scars of her loss for decades in her subconscious. She's stubborn, she's overtly controlling, she's driven in a way that would have her sticking to her ideals, even when those ideals lead to her sacrificing her life to save an innocent. It's just the person that she is. She might not be the warmest of her sisters, but she would always own my heart. I love Prue Halliwell. Thank you, Shannon Doherty, for such a brilliant portrayal. May your soul continue to find rest and your spirit peace. Like this video if you haven't done so yet. Share if you want to. Support me on Patreon if you can. And until tomorrow's video, do remember, obsessing over the things you love, perfectly valid coping mechanism.
I am the sun.